Hi team, welcome to 10 Talks, another conversation that's all about how women win. We would love to know how you win and your thoughts on it. You can go to howwomenwin.com. Today's guest is very interesting in terms of his perspective on not only how he has won, but also how he has helped other women win. So Kathy, introduce our guest for us.
Thanks, Carlette, and thank you, Karch, for joining us. For those who don't recognize this name, Karch Kiraly is an icon in the sport of volleyball. So 2 gold medals as a player, one in 1984, one in 1988, a gold medal as a beach player, first 2 court players, third one, beach player in 1996. And then even though coaches don't get gold medals, the coach of the first gold medal winning women's team in the Tokyo Olympics in 2021. So few people as great players are able to find the formula for being a great player and being a great coach. And so we're exploring women's national team. Anyway, Carlette, help us get started.
Yeah, so Karch, love to start with the power of your story and just introduce to us really how you have become who you are and your definition of winning.
Oh, whoa, that's
we're going to go big right off the bat.
I will try to go with a very notes version of that. You could you could go a long time. Anyway, let's see. My father is originally from Hungary, and he fell in love with sports along with education, and so he grew up, he escaped Hungary in 1956. He had played on the junior national team there, so he was in love with the sport of volleyball. Came over to this country, what a special place it is to, where probably more than any place on the planet, you can be the architect of your own destiny. And that's what he did, at first as a civil engineer, and then he followed his dream into medicine and became a doctor, recently retired. But he kept playing volleyball. Really passionate about it. And so he started teaching me when I was 6 years old on the beaches of specifically of Santa Barbara, California, at East Beach there. And so he infected me with the bug, and he was basically my first coach, my first teammate, my first partner. We played lots of beach tournaments together. And that started a really long career of playing high-level volleyball for about 30 years, from when I was about 16 until I was 46, so the last year that I competed on the American Professional Tour. And right near the end of that time, our sons got into playing volleyball in high school and junior high. And one of our older son, they're only 1 grade apart, went out for his high school volleyball team as a freshman, made the team, and they had I'll term it an interesting season. They lost every match. They were 0-31. But not only did they lose every match, they lost every game, every set of every match. So they were 0-93.
Oh, God.
One of them, they were even winning 20-10, but let it slip through their fingers and lost 25-23. And I think it was during that particular set, near the end or right after when they had lost, my wife said to me, Karch, you got to help them out. We were just dying for them to go 1-92 instead of 0-93, just to taste the smallest increment of success. And so I asked the school if I could get involved, and they were very kind and let me do so. First thing I did was sign up for a coaching clinic with one of the legends in the game, Marv Dunphy, one of my favorite people in or outside of volleyball. I got to play for him. Great coach, great man, great husband, great dad, all of that. And so I knew, and I think you touched on this a little, Kathy, the norm is that people who've had a lot of success as a player do not have a lot of success as a coach. it's easy for someone who's had a lot of success to make assumptions or to get frustrated, to lose patience. Like, why don't they see what I see? Why don't they do what I did? And so I know I'm swimming upstream on that, because I did get to play on a lot of great teams that had a lot of success, but I wanted to approach it as a beginner, which is why I knew a lot about volleyball. I was not a beginner in volleyball, but I wanted to approach it that way as a coach. And so I've tried to do that all through, but I guess the end to that story is that the boys played. We had a nice long preseason, got lots of work in. They played one of the teams that had just killed them the season before, and they went out and they won the first game 25-19, and it was like they had just won the NCAA championship. It was or an Olympic gold medal. They just went nuts. And that whole process. So first of all, I had to calm them down, like, hey, if you could do this once, we might even be able to do it a second time or a third and win the match. They went on to win the match, kept getting better and better, and then they won their section title, which is a big deal in California 4 years later. So they went from just the bottom of the bottom to third in league to first in league and all the way to a championship. And what a great lesson that was for them, but also for me in terms of patience and perseverance. And that really got me hooked with the coaching bug. And then I got asked just kind of randomly by Hugh McCutcheon, who had tremendous success with the USA men's team, led them to a gold medal in Beijing in 2008, decided to go and make the switch from coaching the men's team to coaching the women's team. And he gave me a tremendous opportunity to learn from him and assistant coach with him and work with this program. And so then it was a really, I don't know, felt very natural that when he moved on to coach at the University of Minnesota, an opening obviously was created. I applied for it here and I've been coaching since then. So that was September of 2012. Now, when we get to September of 2022, that'll be 10 years with the program. And I couldn't imagine being anywhere else. I love working with this program, love working with these special women who also happen to be really special volleyball players. Sometimes people ask me, Karch, why aren't you coaching the men, or why don't you think about coaching the men? It just seems so right to me. I've never even really I loved coaching our boys in high school. But since then, I've been able to work with an elite program, the USA Women's Program. And I can't imagine being anywhere else. At some point, I might be somewhere else. I won't coach this program forever, but it just seems so right. And so I don't even give it a second thought as to whether I should be coaching women or men anywhere else on the planet.
That was great. And what feels so right about coaching women for you?
I find women to, I don't know, just again, I have not coached high level men. So I don't get to make an apples to apples comparison in terms of the level, the elite level. But I have never worked with the USA men in any great detail, but I just find the women to be so driven and interested in getting better, driven to learn and improve, interested in feedback, hungry for feedback, and so coachable, and also really dialed into, and I'm married to an exceptional woman. I totally scored when it came to finding a good woman and hanging on for dear life. We've been married 35 years now, right after Christmas. And so I cherish her every day. And I get so many great insights from her in terms of coaching a women's team. But I just find that women in general are better than I am, or better than men are in general, at like a kind of an emotional quotient, an EQ, to kind of dialed in, Women on our team generally will sense if something is off or wrong, or somebody on a teammate of hers is struggling. Not that I'm horrible at it, but just the women on this team are so good at looking out for each other. And that was a really big goal of ours in the last Olympics, to out team every team we faced across the net. So there's this huge connection and trust and teammateship component that's really important with our program. And we believe it's the best, it's the way to maximize our chances when we compete against the world. And so I love the things that the people on our team value in terms of trust, teammateship, connection, hunger for improvement, openness to coaching, things like that.
So
Now, I don't know that that might not be the way I guess that it could be with the USA men. I've just never worked with that, but I certainly cherish my experience with the USA women.
There is a stereotype, been around for a long, long time, that, you know, women can't work with other women. You know, women, you put a bunch of them together and they're going to backstab each other and they're not going to support each other. And so volleyball coaches, you and other coaches of women's teams, have to disprove that every day. But the stereotype comes from behaviors that people have seen. So what are you doing in the gym, and what are they doing? What's collectively happening here to make it different than the stereotype?
You mentioned that stereotype, and it's interesting. It's a little jarring. I think you mentioned it to me when you were visiting here in the gym recently, because I'm aware of that stereotype, but I very rarely, I don't know, confront it or encounter it or think about it, because, and you know our team, Kathy, there's just not a lot of that with our program. It doesn't mean that people always get along perfectly and that everybody on this team is a best friend. That's impossible. You can't have, you know, 25 or 23 or 22 best friends. But it does mean that in general, it's my belief that better people are going to make better volleyball players. That is, people of higher character and integrity, people that those around them can trust, and trust their honesty, and trust that they're going to be there, especially when things get gnarly and we get challenged and we're facing, I think true character comes out when we're really facing a lot of adversity. And so we want to stock this program with people of integrity and character. I think you can never go wrong. It doesn't matter what sex or gender or anything like that, but you can never go wrong if you get high character, and then people who are interested and driven to learn, curious learners, really curious, voracious, curious learners. And then the third component is just this willingness to work hard. So I haven't encountered that a lot. Part of that is by design. We've had some people on the team or in the gym at times who might not fit that so well. And we try to stock our program with people who can stick together when things get really gnarly. We lost a tough match in the Tokyo Olympics. We won all of our matches, but we lost one, we won all of our matches but one. And the one we lost, we got our rear ends handed to us by Russia. That would have been an easy time for people to, I don't know, for us to break apart, for people to lose confidence, for people to start pointing fingers or blame, but there was none of that. And this group hung together really tight. And that was part of how we built the group that we took to Tokyo, knowing we even pulled them for their ideas on and their thoughts on who are the best teammates in this program, because we want to load up on that, knowing we are going to be pushed to our limits and beyond and face massive adversity. I've never seen a team win a big tournament like the Olympics without facing down massive adversity. And so we have to prepare for that and just know it's going to happen and have a group that can stick together and handle that.
Karch, when you ask your players what makes up a great teammate, what did they say?
We just did that again recently with our 2022 group, and we asked each person. We did it in an online poll, and it was so nobody had to submit a name either of themselves or of the teammate they would speak of. But the question was, share a story or some thoughts. All of you have played volleyball for a really long time. That's why you've earned your way into this, Jim. Share something special or share something about a special teammate that you've shared, that you've spent time on the court with at any time in your career. Could be of a time while they were on this team. It could be from before, college, high school, whatever. And so we got some great stories. And each story had some characteristics that were maybe similar to all the others in terms of a theme of trust, of knowing that this person would be consistent. You could trust what you would get from day to day, that their teammate was not different on Tuesday than they were on Thursday, and that they were always there. So there was this consistency theme. But then there were also unique things that each of the people in our program value a little differently. And both of those are helpful to know and helpful as we strive with this 2022 group to be the best, that each of them is striving to be the best teammate possible for each other, just as we on our staff strive to be great teammates for each other and for everybody in the program, as we're all collaborators in this.
So this is your third Olympics, all right? And three medals. I mean, women have medaled each of the last three. London was a silver when Hugh McCutcheon was the head coach. Barcelona, I'm going all the way back to way back here, was a bronze.
Yeah, in Rio.
In Rio, yeah. And then this one, a gold. Were there differences? Certainly, you know, each circumstance different, other teams, but were there differences in terms of this teammateship in those other teams?
I think so. The first Olympic cycle leading up to and through London, I don't know that we had the teammateship component as fully developed and fleshed out. We had a really special group of very skilled volleyball players. And we faced down some challenges in London, but the massive challenge that we faced caught us a little by surprise, and that was in the final, in the gold medal match. We won the first set by a ridiculously lopsided score of 25-11, which was a great lesson for me in always beware the easy first set win. But more importantly, Brazil, most of those points were not us. I don't know if we recognized it at the time, but Brazil probably served 6 balls out and hit 6 balls out by 6 inches each. So 12 mistakes that they just handed to us. That was 12 of the 14-point difference. And then they regrouped and they threw a storm at us. And we, at that point, I don't think had the ability to muster the response that was necessary. I don't think we had developed the teammateship and the trust and the connection components that we needed to face down this absolute, and even if we had had that, I don't know that we would have beaten Brazil. They played an incredible match those next 3 sets and earned the right to, earned a gold medal. They were definitely the Olympic champions and earned it. Our best chance, though, would have been to be able to actually form this strong response where we could pull together. We were not able to pull together, and we really had nothing to draw on, or just nothing like we were able to. So that was I guess a big focus of mine with this program is, if we get to the Rio Olympics and we face massive adversity, we need to have more tools in the kit. And we came very close. We faced some adversity in the preliminary rounds. We went 5-0. We won the quarterfinals. And then we faced massive adversity again in the semifinals, in probably the most disappointing loss that I or anybody who's been with this program during that time has faced. And that was, we lost. We played a very good Serbia team. We scored 101 points. They scored 101 points. We lost 15-13 in the 5th set and came up on the short end. But we had a much better response. In fact, we had a ton to be proud of. We lost the best offensive player in the tournament and one of the best players on the planet, Feluca Akinradowo. She got injured at the end of the 1st set. And so I don't know. And we had a lead in the 5th set. We let it slip away. But the response that our team formed was much more powerful than we were able to do in London. We did come up short. We ended up winning the next match and winning a bronze medal. And some of the players who were with us for both probably would tell you that, or they told me that they were, in general, just feeling like that was much more of a gold medal experience and a great Olympic experience than the one before in London, where we just didn't have the team. I guess some people would call it team chemistry, but we didn't have the team dynamic that could respond. And really, Brazil just blew us out of the water. Serbia did not. They had a 2-1 lead, and our team responded really well and really valiantly. We just came up a little short, but we kept focusing on that and kept building on that. And so then we had an even stronger set of teammateship skills and a framework that allowed us to respond to the inevitable adversity that came up in Tokyo. And so then we ended up really blowing Brazil out of the water. We almost broke, in some ways, and that's a great team and a great program. They're really well coached, and I have so much respect for them. But in that particular match, I think we broke their competitive will. And the only way we do that was with the great teammateship that we had. And it was just, I heard it from hundreds of people, how it was oozing out of the screen, this sense of connection and this complete trust that our team, each team member had in all the other members around her.
What we're trying to explore here is, did the women that were on these winning teams, did you pick them because they had these qualities, or did they develop them? And what were the traits? I mean, you mentioned character for sure, and trusting, and what makes these women unique and makes them winners, and is it trained?
I guess I view it as, if you really boil it down to and oversimplify by far too much, there are these 2 pieces, and one of them is the people who are going to be on our Olympic roster, or the people who are even just in our program. We have Last year, we had a core group of 23 people in our program, all of them great contributors. But we only got to travel 12 to the Olympics, and we only got to have 7 be starters out of that group. So we had to whittle down from 23 to 7 starters. That's not an easy process. But what helped us get to that? There has to be a component, a massive component of performance. People have to perform the skills, the techniques, the tactics of volleyball. But there's also this culture and teammateship side, and we need to maximize both. Some teams in the world have a dominator like Uberwoman player, and they can just give her the ball and set her the ball, and she'll jump and attack 80, 85, 90 times in a match. And she can put a team on her back and lead them to victory. There are some really special players out there who can do that. Our program doesn't have any players like that. We don't, I guess if a player like that came along, we wouldn't say no if she's a good, also needs to be a good fit on the culture side, but we don't aspire to have that. We really cherish, I think of volleyball as one of the quintessential team sports, because you don't get to hang on to the ball. As soon as it comes to you, you have to reflect it or give it away to somebody else. In softball, a pitcher can completely dominate a game, or in soccer or in basketball. And this is a very, a prototypical team sport. And so we want to play it the team way. We also know that if one of those teams that depends on a single person has a bad match, what's your plan B? You don't have one, really. And so that's another reason we love to play the game the way we play it, in so team oriented, and so that we have an offense that is not focused through a single person, and there's just more variety and more threats that other teams have to prepare for. We love to play volleyball that way, the team, a quintessential team game. So we had Sue Enquist, who's been great with us as almost like our consultant culture coach. And she helped us with this process to assure everybody that this would be completely anonymous and that all identities would be protected. But we asked them to rate their teammates on a scale from 1 to 6, 6 being the very best teammate possible. I know that's oversimplifying it, but we asked them, knowing that they have knowledge on their teammates that we don't have, to help us, especially if we were in close decisions, which is inevitable when you're trying to get to 12 in the near impossible task of going from 23 to 12 or 23 to 7. And so they were helpful in that process, in helping us understand from their perspective who the very best teammates in this program are, and who, and nobody's a bad teammate in this program. It's just that some are elite and exceptional, and others are really good, and others are good, and probably good is the worst that would happen, but we need like elite and exceptional. And so we found that in our draft decision, as we started working from 23, we had to work to 18, because that would be the group that would travel to the tournament we would play before the Olympics. And we were, we didn't know what to expect, but we learned that we had formed a draft decision with our coaching staff as to who to travel, and it lined up perfectly with what the team saw as who are the people most valued as teammates. And so when they learned the group, first of all, we let them know we're seeing things very much like you are. We didn't know if we would. But when they learned that, and then they saw who was traveling, they, I guess it was confirmation to them that this is really important to us and really important to them, that we're seeing things very similarly, that we're not completely out over here at this end of the universe and they're at that end, and that we're serious about sending a team to Tokyo that has to out team the only way we have, or I guess I should say, by far the best shot we have to accomplish something that we had come up short in 12 previous Olympics. One boycott, 11 previous Olympics, and one team that qualified but didn't get to compete, was to set up a group that was capable of out teaming. And so we intensely, very seriously valued the information that they shared with us on an anonymous basis.
And so when you say teammanship, explain to us what that is, how you do it, what the characteristics or the formula is for that.
There are so many ways to define it, but one thing we did do when we asked our team to let us know, okay, who do you value most as a teammate? There was even one person who shall remain nameless out of 23 who got perfect scores. There was one person out of 23 who got all sixes across the board as the absolute best ranking of a teammate that they could, that she could. Only one person got that. And of course, what did that mean? The others, there were a lot of fives and fours, and maybe some threes, maybe even a couple of quite low scores, but that was very much not the norm because it's a special group to begin with. But we went through a whole process of working together and defining what that means. So I haven't consulted my notes lately, but when we did that over a year ago, if I had to boil it down to three categories, it would be humble, hungry, and trusting or trustworthy. So humble is somebody who makes it about others, who celebrates the success of somebody else far more and with far more fervor than when she does something well herself. Always looking out for, maybe she's the first one. Again, she's always deflecting and making it about others and making it about the team over herself. Hungry is somebody who's looking for ways that involves a lot in terms of the connotation is effort, effort to get better, effort to be a better teammate, effort to learn my teammates. There are all these backstories that we don't know about people. We just look at a person and we assume they haven't faced much adversity. Like we just don't know their backstory at all. So humble is also about taking the time to learn the backstory, and hungry is too, to like making the extra effort to learn more about a person than just what a success she's been on the volleyball court. And then trustworthy is this sense of, I don't know, maybe it's when somebody's not on the court, she's always the one grabbing, she has a towel in her hand, she's cheering people on. And if somebody dives on the court, she's out there and wiping up and making sure that things are safe for the next play and looking out for her teammates. Somebody that people can trust in lots of ways, or also trustworthy in the sense of she might be more highly attuned to when one of her teammates might be struggling that day. It could be nothing to do with volleyball. That's one of the skills. Not everybody has every skill off the charts, but that's a skill, is to recognize when a teammate is struggling and to reach out and let her know, I'm here for you. And so we went through all of those and kind of divided up all kinds of, gave example behaviors and example statements in each of those three kind of general buckets: hungry, humble, hungry, and trustworthy.
Great. And you also talked about competitive will. So explain to us really what you've discovered about women and their competitive will.
Well, I loved reading, I've told you this before, but Kathy, I loved reading your book, Gender and Competition. I didn't even know that there was a small connection between you and me, you as coach and author of that book. It was a small way, in a very tiny way, the genesis for that book. But I just loved how you pointed out that there are lots of ways of manifesting this competitive nature. And I guess a great example is we've had somebody in this program for a long time, and if you got to know her, you would be struck strongly by what a sweet exterior she presents. And she is an absolute sweetheart, just one of the best people you could ever know. But what's important to remember, and luckily I didn't fall for this, is to assume that that sweet exterior means that she's not competitive or that she's not fiercely competitive. Interestingly, I was investigating her some right around the end of her college career because she had a nice career, and was thinking, I wonder what the possibilities would be for her and USA. And I asked her college coach, and her college coach says, nah, you don't want to be, you shouldn't be interested in her. She's not competitive at all. Because this college coach, who happened to be female, but happened to have, a certain narrow view of what it means to be competitive, and didn't think this player that she coached for 4 years was competitive. As it turns out, this player was fiercely competitive. It's just hidden behind this very sweet exterior. And so luckily I didn't listen to her college coach, and we just approached it with a blank slate, and she turned out to be an incredible contributor over a number of years for this program, and helped it to get to new heights. And so you might not know that unless you dug a little deeper. If you only went based on external appearances, you wouldn't know. But she also was an incredible teammate, like in terms of good teammates, that they also maintain a lot of physical contact, have really consistent body language, and they when things are going wrong and people haven't been trained much in this or worked at it much, if things are going wrong for that person, they tend to get really small and quiet, and they close up and they start looking at the floor, and we lose eye contact. And that's just the time when we can't lose it, when things are going badly. But she had this almost unique ability to just in a quick huddle, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it now again, she could just lock eyes for like half a second with all 5 of her teammates who happened to be on the court at that time. And other people found that competitive and inspiring. And so there are lots of ways to manifest a competitive nature.
I love that. So powerful. I want to ask another question just in regards to kind of that combination. So what about identity management? You've got the best players in the world and the best women who are competing on a team. And yet they are, human, and they are fiercely competitive. How do you notice that women manage their identity in a way that is really for other women and for themselves?
That's a good question. We were just talking about it this morning in a team meeting we had before training. And I guess the theme was that we will never be perfect at this, but our aspiration is to be a place where people can develop in a holistic manner. And when you say holistic, I guess that's just a fancy word for saying developing the whole person, and not just focusing on the techniques and tactics and craft of moving a volleyball around or manipulating it or getting it to do what you want, or a team to do what it wants with the ball. And so one of our players actually shared in here or in the meeting. She said, for my first couple of years with this program, I don't think I felt like I had to do some things a little differently, because what worked in college, we all know what gets you here doesn't necessarily keep you here in the USA gym. And just because, and everybody who was in college was the absolute dominator on her team. But you come in here and the whole gym is filled with dominators. It's kind of like the valedictorian who goes to Harvard. Well, everybody was a valedictorian, and now, and now not only do they play an instrument, they speak 3 languages, and they already are like state debate champion too. And it's very intimidating. And so people feel like they have to do things differently. And so this one member of our program said, yeah, I felt like I had to think more about volleyball, like live and breathe it, and look at video and overanalyze. And I just found myself spinning, and I was getting a little away from who I am as a person. Some people are going to be their best volleyball selves if they are nonstop thinking volleyball 24/7, looking at video for 2 hours a day, and just thinking, and always having it on their mind. But other people will be someone else might be her best volleyball self by giving herself a break for a few hours and thinking nothing about volleyball. In fact, this player who was sharing this and said, when I really started hitting my stride, I backed off on the 24/7 volleyball thing. So she mentioned a great friend on her team who was sitting in the room. She said, and yeah, when I go over to her house, she has a rule: no volleyball. We can't talk volleyball. And I love it, because we need a break from that too. So there's this spectrum from 24/7. That's going to work for some people, but it's not going to work for others. And the other end of the spectrum is, I'm going to get in here and I'm going to do my work for 6 or 7 hours, but then I've got to give myself a break. I mentioned to them also that I think I became a much better volleyball player when after I got married and after my wife and I had children, because before that time, I tended to make the mistake of defining myself far more by what had happened in training that day or what had happened during that match that day. And that's a really tough way to stay even, because everybody's going to have tough practices and practices where nothing goes well, and matches where nothing's going to go well, and then matches where things and practices where they do go well. But it's really hard to be locked into that mode of riding your performance, the ups and downs, when you have a 3 or a 4-year-old, this little cutie who just doesn't have a clue what's going on the court and just says, Dad, can we go to the park? And that might have been right after a big win at a tournament or something like that. It's just awesome to get that perspective and pull me out of this single-mindedness of trying to be the best player I can be or the best coach I can be, and also have this perspective of I'm a husband and a dad, and I'm so much more, and not defining myself solely based on what I'm doing in volleyball. And so I shared that with the team too. But I think it's really important to try to find some balance, and find the balance that works for you. There are some people in our program who are their best as volleyball players and as teammates when they're thinking about volleyball a lot, but that's going to burn other people out. Not everybody can do that, but also you got to give yourself a break and some grace. We talk about that a lot, giving ourselves some grace as we're trying to do new things and make mistakes when we're operating at the edge of our abilities and we're trying to learn and improve.
And how have you really helped when they are going for that greatness to really win their well-being as well, honoring so much about the mental side of just their health and their well-being?
Well, certainly, all 7.5 billion plus people on the planet have gone through a really, really challenging last couple of years. So I think I saw a Washington Post article just a couple of weeks ago that said that in the year 2021, which is just last year, that people in our country anyway, under 65, it was either 65 and under or under 65, we lost more people to suicide than to COVID. We have worked hard to have more resources available for our people before the Olympics and after the Olympics. We've given them more time off because they spend part of their year with us and part of their year playing professionally in club leagues around the world. And we're trying to do some things to help them fill up their buckets that are not the volleyball bucket, but like the family and friends and life buckets. And so we're not perfect about it, and we can't just give them the whole year off. Although if somebody needed that, we do have one person actually taking the whole national team season off because she does need that time, and we are supporting her in that. But in general, we're trying to give more time off, provide more resources, and just understand that this has been an incredibly challenging time for everybody on our planet and everybody in our program. And again, look to try and give grace and adjust and adapt. And if somebody's really struggling from the mental or just outside of volleyball, their life outside of volleyball, we will do things to try to help them shore that up. It's always been a priority of mine.
No, I think this gives us a really good insight here into how you found that the women you're leading and working with and the team with are succeeding. So thank you very much for giving us this time, Karch.
Well, thank you. It's been wonderful to visit with you both, and an honor. And I wish you the best with all of your. I know you all are working on a book, and so
yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so wishing you great luck. I'm looking forward to reading it once it comes out, just as I so enjoyed your book, Gender and Competition. And I still have things that stand out from that book. I think one of them, Kathy, was when you told a story about Anson Dorrance, and he's, as any great coach will do, always looking to do something better, do something different. And so he brought in this new warm-up program, and it was great. And it was so physiologically tuned in, and they were just like going down the toilet for the first part of the season. And then he finally realized that his team needed 5, 10, 15 minutes of just sitting around, lying around, kind of stretching, but hey, how's your day? How are your classes going? And this check-in time. And they had lost that with this hyper physiologically tuned
Focused,
program.
Pragmatic, right. Very on point of what we're trying to get ready for training. And it's like, this is how we get ready for training.
It was fascinating. So he ditched this this great scientifically designed program, and then they got back to being a team and connecting a little, because everybody in school and college is doing their thing. So those kinds of things always stood out to me, and I really enjoyed what you had to share. I knew it already that women are just as competitive as men, and they just don't always. It's not always kind of like a lot of guys just manifested as kind of this in-your-face type of competition, but there are so many other ways to do that. So anyway, I wish you all luck, and looking forward to what's to come from you.
Well, Karch, this has been such a treat and an honor to just be able to hear your words of wisdom. And thank you for being on our team and for supporting the work that we're doing, and most importantly, supporting the women that you're really making champions. So thank you very much. And team, it's up to you now. Go out and win your way, whatever your definition is. Just find your team and find your support, and have the courage to go for it. Thank you, Karch, and thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.